The Hospice of the Holocene. First, you must understand the odds. You must understand that for billions of years, the universe was just rocks crashing into other rocks in the dark. But then, against every statistical probability, the dust woke up. We are the universe realizing it has hands, and for the last 10,000 years, we have used them to build the impossible. We conquered the night with fire. We took the silence of the desert and built the pyramids. We are the only things in the known galaxy that can look at a star and calculate how much it weighs. We are a biological miracle, a winning streak of evolution that felt like it would never end. We were the protagonists of reality, and we were winning. For the entirety of modern history, we have operated under the arrogant, comforting assumption of linearity. We have viewed time as a staircase. We believed we were ascending from the swamp to the savanna, from the cave to the city, and eventually, inevitably, from the earth to the stars. We assumed that our great-great-grandchildren would solve the equations we left unfinished, that they would cure the diseases we could not treat, and that our art, our philosophy, and our struggles would be remembered by someone. We believed in the long term. But there comes a moment in the life of an observant person where that staircase dissolves. You look at the trajectory of the atmosphere, the exhaustion of the soil, the acidity of the oceans, and the geopolitical rigidity that prevents us from stopping it, and you realize the staircase was a precipice. We are not a permanent fixture in the universe. We are a brief, incandescent flash in the dark. To sit with this realization is to sit with a profound remorse. It is a mourning not for the individual self. We all know that we will die, but for the collective we. It is the mourning for the human project. It hurts to think that the symphonies of Mozart, the engineering of the Romans, the simple concept of a justice system, the way a mother looks at her child, or the specific smell of rain, might eventually exist nowhere, witnessed by no one, remembered by none. It feels unfair. It feels like a story that was cut off before the third act could resolve the plot, and yet the universe is under zero obligation to provide a resolution. This is the stage for the absurd. The clash between our desperate desire for meaning and continuity and a world that offers us only silence and entropy. I feel I have gotten ahead of myself. We should take a moment to run through the reasons for such melodrama. To reach the ethical conclusion that we must live differently, we must first have the courage to face the diagnosis without blinking. This is not pessimism born of depression. This is a pessimism born of physics. Why do I say that the project is doomed? Why do I abandon the hope that technology or political will creates a Star Trek future? We must look at the mechanisms of our demise, not as a singular event, but as a convergence of systems, a polycrisis that has moved beyond the point of easy repair. The centerpiece of despair is the climate. The most terrifying aspect of climate science is the lag. The warming we experience today is not the result of the carbon we burned this morning. It is the result of what we burnt decades ago. The consequences of our current emissions, the massive spikes of the 21st century, are locked in. They are a check that has been written, but not yet cleared the bank. When it does, the cost will be astronomical. Worse are the feedback loops. The albedo effect is diminishing. As the white ice melts, the dark ocean absorbs more heat, which melts more ice. The permafrost is thawing, releasing methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide, which causes more warming, which thaws more permafrost. These are the engines of destruction that once started run themselves. We are no longer drivers of the climate. We are merely passengers on a train whose brakes have failed. We have treated the Earth like a rental car we did not plan on returning. We are currently living in a state of severe overshoot, consuming the biological resources of 1.7 Earths every year. We have depleted the topsoil. the thin skin of the earth upon which all civilization rests, at a rate that suggests we have fewer than 60 harvests left in many major agricultural zones. We have fished the oceans to the brink of emptiness. We have replaced the wild biomass of mammals with livestock, to the point that 96% of all mammal biomass on Earth is human, or the animals that we eat. This is not sustainable. In the literal thermodynamic sense, you cannot maintain an exponential growth economy on a finite planet. The math inevitably resolves to zero. Perhaps, if we were a different species, a hive mind, or a purely logical being, we could coordinate a global de-escalation. We could engineer a soft landing. But we are tribal primates with nuclear weapons. As resources beget scarcity, scarcity begets conflict. The human project will not end with us holding hands and walking into the sea. It will end with us fighting over the last scraps. The political will required to reverse our trajectory would require a total dismantling of global capitalism, a voluntary reduction in living standards for the wealthy North, and a level of cooperation never before seen in history. There is no evidence to suggest that we are capable of this. Therefore, the rational observer is forced to conclude that the civilization we know is terminal. We are living in the twilight of the Holocene. Acknowledging this creates a unique kind of spiritual vertigo. If there is no future to save, if the grand arc of history bends not towards justice, but towards death, then what is the point of getting out of bed? This is where we must summon the philosophy of absurdism. Albert Camus famously imagined Sisyphus, the king condemned, to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity only to watch it roll back down. In our case, the boulder is human survival. For decades, we have pushed it up the hill, inventing vaccines, creating laws, writing treaties, installing solar panels. We believed that one day the boulder would stay at the top. We believed we would solve the world. The absurdist realization is that the boulder will never stay at the top. Gravity wins, the climate wins, entropy wins, the rock will roll back down, crushing us in the process. Most people, upon realizing this, fall into nihilism. If nothing matters in the long run, then nothing matters now. If the ship is sinking, I might as well get drunk and break the furniture. This is the nihilism of the lazy and the cruel. There is another, a harder, nobler path. If we accept that humanity is a terminal patient, then we must shift our ethical framework. We must move from the ethics of the cure to the ethics of the hospice. In a hospital, when a patient can be saved, the doctors fight. They perform painful surgeries, they administer harsh drugs, they focus entirely on the future. But when a patient enters hospice care, the goal shifts. We stop trying to cure death because death is inevitable. Instead, the focus becomes the quality of the moment. In a hospice, the measure of success is not did they live forever, it is were they comfortable? Did they feel loved? And was there dignity in their final days? If the world is a hospice, then the long term loses its power over us. We are freed from the tyranny of the future. Suddenly, the short term becomes infinitely sacred. If you know the world has 1,000 years left, you might ignore the crying child to focus on building a dam. But if you know the world is ending, the child becomes the only thing in the universe that matters. This reframing changes the nature of our obligation. We are not obligated to save the world because we cannot. We are obligated to make it bearable for the time we have left. In fact, the obligation is stronger because there is no heaven waiting to reward us and no future generation to build statues of us. We must be good for no other reason than that suffering is real, and we are the only mechanisms in the universe capable of alleviating it. When you offer a glass of water to someone in a burning house, you are not doing it to save the house. You are doing it because thirst hurts. You have the power to stop the hurt for a moment. That is enough. That needs to be enough. This brings us to the most difficult and radical idea, the pursuit of happiness in a dying world. How dare we be happy? How can we laugh, or enjoy a meal, or fall in love when the forests are burning and the water is rising? Is this not a betrayal of tragedy to feel joy? No. To surrender to despair is to let absurdity crush you. To live in a state of constant, paralyzed misery is to grant the indifferent universe a victory it doesn't even care about. Happiness in the face of inevitable collapse is an act of rebellion. It is the spiritual equivalent of the musicians on the Titanic playing as the water rose. They did not play because they thought it would plug the hole in the hull. They played because music is beautiful, and beauty is a defiance of chaos. They played to comfort themselves and to comfort the terrified people around them. We must find our own music. This is not the happiness of ignorance. We are not talking about the happiness of the consumer who closes their eyes and buys more plastic. We are talking about deeper, sturdier happiness, found in connection, in presence, and in care. It is the happiness of the person who tends a garden, knowing that the frost is coming, simply because the act of nurturing is good for the soul. It is the happiness of sharing a meal with friends and laughing until your sides hurt, fully aware that the food systems are failing, but choosing to honor the abundance on the table right now. It is the happiness of loving someone fiercely, knowing that loss is guaranteed, but deciding that the love is worth the grief. We are the stewards of the final act. If the human project is a movie that is ending, let us make the final scene one of grace. Let us not go out clawing at each other's throats. Let us go out holding hands. We can and should feel the remorse. We should weep for the whales, for the coral, for the glaciers, and for the potential of what could have been. We were a promising species. We had Shakespeare, and space travel, and antibiotics, and jazz. We almost made it. Allow that grief to break your heart. When you speak to the cashier at the grocery store, remember that she too is trapped in the collapsing machine. When you see a stranger in traffic, remember that they are navigating the same dread. The knowledge of our doom should strip away our pettiness. It should dissolve our grudges. Who has time for hatred when the clock is ticking so loudly? You are obligated to be the person who brings a lamp to the darkening room, not because the lamp will stop the night from coming, the night is inevitable, but because the light will make the faces of people you love visible for a little while longer. So, here we are, standing on the edge of the precipice, watching the storm roll in. We have failed to save the world. We have failed to secure eternity. We have failed to test the staircase, but we have not yet failed at being human. The absurdist hero accepts the tragedy without resignation. They wake up every morning in a world that is unfair, doomed, and spiraling, and they ask, who can I help today? What beauty can I witness today? What small order can I create from this chaos? This is the only meaning we will ever get, and in the vast, cold, indifferent silence of the cosmos, that small, warm, defiant act of care is the only meaning we will ever need. Play the music. Love thy neighbor. The house is burning. We are still inside, and we have nowhere else to go but towards each other. Thank you.